Hello. So we finally got the Zoomer back from its MOT a few days ago, and hey, the weather's improving. We had thick snow and ice only a week ago. Today it was like a summer's day, and as the weather's improving, it means I can take the Zoomer out of the shared bike shed and do some work on it outside in the fresh air, which is better for me. It's better for visibility and things like that. I can see what I'm doing more clearly. So the plan tomorrow is to go down, and the first thing we're going to do two things tomorrow, hopefully, because they're both sort of combined. We're going to swap the exhaust over, take off the Leo vents, put on the stock exhaust, and also swap over the old centre stand for the shiny new one. So at the moment I'm just going to concentrate on the exhaust. Now, if you've watched the previous videos, you'll know the reason I'm experimenting with the exhaust is a later reason it failed at MOT was that the Leo Vince exhaust is now deemed as too loud for the bike. The regulation in this country is that any replacement exhaust must be as close as possible to the noise output of the original exhaust. And to be fair, the Leo Vince isn't that, it's quite a bit louder. Now, I didn't put that exhaust on, it came with the bike, so if I can lose it and put on a quieter exhaust, that's fine with me. The question is removing the Leo Vince exhaust and putting on a stock exhaust going to interfere with the fuel changes that I've made using the iMap? That's the question. Now, there's two ways out of this. Obviously, I'm going to put the stock exhaust on anyway, take the bike for a spin and see how it goes. It may bog down, it may struggle, it may not achieve the sort of takeoff speeds and acceleration speeds it has done with the Leo Vince exhaust, in which case, because the MOT certificate I got was actually a clean one, I can quite legally ride around with the Leo Vince exhaust until the next MOT next January, in which time I'll just swap over the stock exhaust, get it through its MOT and then swap them around again. If of course the stock exhaust doesn't affect the slight fuel changes I've made and the bike is still responding as well as it did with the Leo Vince exhaust on, then that's fine. And remember, I'm not using the Leo Vince exhaust for any huge increases in speed, in overall top speed or anything like that. I mean, I'm getting sort of 30, 35 and that suits me fine. What I do like that the iMap has done is given me greater takeoff speed, acceleration speed. That's made the big difference. So if I can maintain that with the stock exhaust, happy days. If I can't, then we'll have to swap them back over again. So I'm going to show you the stock exhaust I got now, and any other bits and pieces that I'm going to use to do this job, and then we'll make a start. So when the garage identified that the Leo Vince exhaust was really too loud to pass its MOT, they said to me that if I could produce and get it delivered to them a stock exhaust, they were quite happy to pass the MOT on the knowledge that I'd got a stock exhaust and I would replace it, which was great. So luckily I found somebody on eBay who was selling one, and I sent off for that. Now the price was £99, which included the delivery, which I thought was reasonable. Probably a little bit more than I wanted to pay for a second-hand exhaust, but it was the beggars couldn't be choosers. There weren't any other ones around. And as it actually happened, I mean, a new stock exhaust is around 350 quid, so that wasn't an option. This arrived, and I have to say it's in far better condition than I expected. There's hardly, and the only very slight rust I can see is very slightly along this weld here, this join. I was actually going to repaint it, but to be perfectly honest, it doesn't need it. This must be as near to new as it's possible to get. So delighted with that. That was quite happy paying £100 for that, frankly. That's no problem. So this is the exhaust we've got. Now, as you can see, the only thing it's missing is the heat shield here, the plastic heat shield. So we went to David Silver Spares and picked up a new heat shield. This was about 15, 20 quid, something like that. And we have also got the screws for attaching it and the little rubber grommets that go into the holes here. So the heat shield will fit onto the exhaust when it's mounted. Now, I've also ordered from David Silver Spares, I got a new gasket, which is somewhere here. There we go, one exhaust gasket. And mounting bolts. Now the bolts, I have to say, I didn't, the actual Honda bolts for this, I think were about £3 or £4 each. Exactly the same thing on eBay, unbranded, was about £2 for two. So those are the exhaust bolts. So this is what we're going to we're going to take off the Leo vents and attach this exhaust. Now that should be easy. The only thing I'm slightly concerned about, which I've never removed before, is the O2 sensor. Now I need to disconnect it, unplug it from its electrical connection, and then we need to take it out of the Leo Vince exhaust and screw it back into here. Now hopefully that's going to be straightforward. The Leo Vince exhaust isn't an old exhaust, it's not all rusted to bits, so it should be fairly straightforward to get out, but apparently sometimes these things can be difficult. So what I decided to do, put that down, was get one of these. This was £12 on eBay, and what we have here is a kit to remove O2 sensors, and of course the benefit here is that there's a gap there where the cable for the O2 sensor goes up. You fit that onto the nut, and you can put a ratchet handle in there, twist it off. It's apparently, they work really well. You even get a couple of little bits and pieces here which are for rethreading. Should the thread become damaged in here, you can put these in and rethread. For instance, that's the one that fits my exhaust. So all in all, I was quite impressed with this. So we're going to try this, and hopefully this will take off the O2 sensor on the Leo vents, and that's the only bit I have any concerns about. I mean, I've taken the exhaust on and off a few times, so that's like a 10-15 minute job. I just need to make sure I can get the O2 sensor off. So anyway, this was £12 on eBay. The last thing I bought on eBay was the gadget for removing stuck bolts, and that was a tremendous success. So I'm hoping this does the job too. So there we go, we've got all the parts together, we've got our exhaust, we've got our heat shield, we've got everything we need to do to go down and hopefully easily enough take off the Leo Vince exhaust, put this one on, and just now obviously it'll cut down the volume a lot, and then the important thing will be to take it for a test ride and just see if it makes any difference. And I'm hoping it doesn't make any difference at all, or very, very little. In which case this can just stay on, it's fine with me. I don't particularly like noisy exhausts, I'm quite happy with a quieter one, that's no problem. If it causes a problem, then we'll just take this back off, put the Leo Vince on, and that can stay on until the MOT next year when we'll swap it over for this for 24 hours. So that's the plan. We'll go down now, we'll get the bike out, and we'll have a look at the job and start some work. Okay, so we're down in the work area, and we're going to hopefully change the exhaust over and at the same time do the centre stand. I'll do probably two separate videos. I was going to do this yesterday when it was nice and sunny outside, but it was too sunny outside. It was too good a day to miss after weeks of snow and rain and misery, so ended up going along to the local beach at Portobello and spending a few hours there instead. Today we're back to normal Scottish weather. It's rain, it's cold, so we're indoors and we're going to get on with work now. So we're going to start off by hopefully removing the oxygen sensor, strip out the Leo Vince exhaust, fit a new one, and at the same time put on the new centre stand, and that will be today's work done. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is unclip the oxygen sensor from the connector. I'm trying to see how I actually do that. I think it's going to take two hands, so what I'll do is I'll hopefully get it off, and then I'll come back to show you how I got it off, because there's not room for me, tools and the camera in this tight space. Then we're going to obviously unbolt the oxygen sensor from the exhaust. So this is job number one, try and get that plastic coupling out. You know, I don't know who designs these things, but they certainly don't make it easy for people. So the best way to get this off, take the radiator off. There's a little mounting bolt in here, just in there, which holds the O2 sensor on. Take that off, and then you need to press this little, sorry it's difficult to hold the light on the phone, this little tab here, press that and it comes out. So you can't really do it without getting into the inside of it, if you see what I mean. Fiddly, over fiddly. Anyway, that's it done, that's the O2 sensor disconnected, so we can now move on to removing it from the exhaust. Okay, so this is our O2 removal socket. And what this does is it allows you to slide, because it's obviously open at one side. Let's see if we get some light on this. Actually, it's a bit dark here. There we go, how's that? This is open on one side, allows you to put it over the cable and slide it down onto the I'm just getting a position I want, onto the bolt. Okay, now what somebody suggested was, because obviously on slightly cheaper ones, and of course this is a slightly cheaper set, this can slightly open if it's on too tight, the sensor. So what they suggest doing is putting some mole grips just to hold that on there, tighten that up. Right, and then what we do is we put the wrench into the hole onto the thing, and hopefully, not using my arm that recently got broken, I'm just going to nudge that because I've just banged that. We undo the sensor. And as I hoped, because it's a fairly new exhaust, that wasn't on too tight. So you can now just turn that off. 102 sensor removed. That was nice and easy. In fact, this is in a heck of a mess, so I think it might be an idea to clean this up a bit before we put it back on again. Anyway, O2 sensor removed. That was a lot actually easier than I expected. Sorry, the light's not very good. Just going to give you a look at this sensor in the daylight. As you can see, it's absolutely choked up with carbon. So we're going to clean this off as well, because there's not many holes visible in that it's sensing anything. So we'll clean it up while we've got it out. So the next job is to take off the two bolts that hold the exhaust onto the engine. We'll take those off, and then we're just going to have to come along and remove the bolts that hold the Leo Vince bracket frame on. And this is where the stock exhaust also bolts into, and also the one, excuse me, I'm lying on my back here, that's up, just holding the exhaust onto the fender there. So that's next. And while we've got the exhaust off, I'm going to put the new centre stand on as well. Okay, so next job, get these bolts out. So that's the Leo Vince exhaust off, dead easy. As I say, just the bolt here, and a small bolt into the mudguard there. Takes the exhaust off, obviously, once you take the bolts underneath as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to change over the damaged centre stand, which I'll need to prop the bike up on its blocks, put the new centre stand on, and then we'll put the stock exhaust on. So far so good. Okay, so we're now ready to put the stock exhaust back on. We've got a new gasket here fitted on. That was a couple of pound. It bolts onto the frame through here. We've got new bolts for that, and then the last one just attaches to the mudguard at the back. Just to keep the mudguard straight, I think. And then we're going to put on the new heat shield as well. So this is just a straight reverse of what we did before. Shouldn't be any problem, he says. I'm not going to reattach the O2 sensor just now, because I'm going to get that cleaned up a bit, because that's looking a bit of a state. Where is it? There it is, covered in soot deposits. So we're going to clean that up. I need to have a quick check on YouTube first, just to see how they recommend doing that. And that's it. So the exhaust going back on, that's the next bit. So that's the Zoomer with the stock exhaust back on again. The question is now, does it affect the running with the IMAP in, or doesn't it? But we'll find that out on a day when it's not pouring with rain and blowing a gale, which hopefully will be later this week. All I've got to do now is clean up the O2 sensor and refit that. I may have to take this off again actually, get a better fit on that. I should have thought of that first, but that's okay, it's only a couple of screws. Plug it back in, put a bit of WD-40 on that just to keep the connections nice and clean, and that's it. This has been remarkably, I need to put my cover back over that. So it's been as anyone who knows who's watched some of my videos, this has been a remarkably straightforward job, which is rather worrying. What's going to go wrong? Anyway, that's it done. New exhaust on. I'll give you a quick video when I'm doing the O2 sensor, cleaning that, and then we'll come back and refit it. So we took the O2 sensor off, obviously, to change the exhaust, and as you can see from the video I took, it was absolutely coated in carbon deposits. So there's not much point in putting it back on like that. We're going to clean it off. Had a quick look on YouTube, watched a couple of videos, and it looks pretty straightforward. So we're going to give it a try now. Just angle this down and you can see what we're doing. So basically we've soaked the O2 sensor in some warm water for a while, an hour or two, and as you can see already there's lots of bits coming off it. It's still thickly encrusted though, so I'm going to just get a trusty toothbrush and just try and get the worst of that off. Look at that, it is black. So, I'm amazed this has been censoring anything, frankly. I'll get all this off as best we can. You can actually see some holes again now. One thing I never throw out are toothbrushes. So many useful things you can do with them. Let's just give this a little. And you can see straight away, we can actually see, I hope you can anyway, holes again in this which were covered with crud before. So that looks a lot better. So now what we do is we'll look at the colour of that. One little O2 sensor. Get a basin. Don't lose the washer that comes with the O2 sensor. Just fill up an old spray bottle, make sure it's just clean water and it's got a nozzle that allows you to blast away, and we just want to fire into the little vents here and just make sure everything is unblocked. Good, you can see lots of little bits coming out, so that's good. Try not to fire it in your face as I just did just now. Okay, and hopefully I'm going to put that back on. Just get some fresh water in this little tub here. What's that? This one had it actually. Chinese restaurant plastic tubs, another very useful thing. Just going to give us a wee tap here. That's not bad. So hopefully when we put this back in, nothing's going to go wrong. So there we go, we can see all the holes now. That's much cleaner. Just dry it off, and then when we're down at the bike tomorrow we can fit it back in again. Blow out, make sure the water's out. Okay, so hopefully when we put that back in, that'll do the job. Nice and clean, all the encrusted muck off it. I'm going to go down now, fit this back on, and then hopefully if the weather's a bit better we can start the bike up and just check everything's running okay. So we're back this afternoon just to hopefully finish things off. We have our newly cleaned O2 sensor, which we're just going to put into the new exhaust. Just bolt that in, don't forget the washer. Reconnect it up put the heat shield back on and the radiator cover, and then we should be good to go to start the engine up and just test it and see how it's running with the stock exhaust on. So we're just going to carry on with that now. I'm not going to need the special tool to attach this, it'll just tighten with a spanner and that should do the job. Okay, so we'll get that done and then we'll see about firing it up for a test. Right, so that's it all back together. O2 sensor plugged in. We squirt a WD-40 on each connection just to keep them nice and free of moisture. Put the coolant reserve cover back on, obviously the exhaust shield and the radiator cover, and don't forget the little bolt that holds the O2 sensor in, which goes back into there. So that's it. Hope job done. Now we'll just start it up and see how it sounds with the new exhaust on. I would imagine it'll be a lot quieter. So the bike's running fine, exhaust is obviously much quieter. It's very windy today, so I don't know if you can hear it very well, but I'm going to take it out for a spin when the weather improves tomorrow or the next day and just judge the performance, see if it makes any difference. But that's it, new exhaust on, job done.